Hello, everybody. My name is Katie Myers, and I'm an English teacher at Kirkwood High School, and I'm here to help you prepare for the PSAT. So, in this session, we are going to look at some of the English related concepts and tests. But before I begin, I want to just say a couple of words of advice. Some people are just naturally good test takers, and some are not. I fall in the category of being an okay test taker, but not the best test taker. So, if you've taken an ACT or SAT preparation class, you have a ton of tools already, and some of the things I'm going to say might remind you of those classes. If you've never had a class before, hopefully that this session will also help you feel confident in knowing what to expect on test day. Okay, so here we go. So in terms of the skills tested on the PSAT, there are three portions: a reading test, a writing and language test, and a math test. Today's focus will be on the first two, the reading and the writing and language. And then Ms. Hall will review the math test in another presentation. So what do we need to know? So the test length is 2 hours and 45 minutes. There are no points deducted for incorrect answers or unanswered questions, also called rights-only scoring. And there's also a lot of places you can practice, and it also gives you kind of that scale range. But I think the most important part of this slide is that there's no penalty for guessing. So one big test-taking tip for this test in particular is to not leave any answers blank. If you get to the end and there are 5 minutes left, you might just choose one letter and fill in the answer with all of those, because chances are you will get a certain percentage of those correct. Great test-taking tip for a lot of these time tests. So for the reading test, you're going to encounter 5 different passages with 47 questions based on those passages, and you'll have an hour. So here's my time limit tip. When you practice, try to read the passage and answer 1 question per minute so you will have some time left over. For example, for a passage with 8 questions, try to read the passage and answer the questions in 8 minutes, and that will give you a little bit of wiggle room if you want to go back. So quick facts on the right. It says all questions are multiple choice and based on passages. Some passages are paired with other passages or informational graphics, such as graphs and tables. There's no math required, and topic-specific prior knowledge is never tested. It's purely what is in the passage. And the reading test is part of the evidence-based reading and writing section. So what can we expect? In the reading test, students will encounter questions like those asked in a lively, thoughtful, evidence-based discussion. So for example, here is a question. The passage says, the coming decades will likely see more intense, and notice the word intense is underlined, clustering of jobs, innovation, and productivity in a smaller number of bigger cities and city regions. Some regions could end up bloated beyond the capacity of their infrastructure, while others struggle, their promise stymied by inadequate human or other resources. So the question is, as used in line 2, intense most likely or most nearly means, and they give you 4 options: A, emotional, B, concentrated, C, brilliant, and D, determined. Now the truth is, out of context, intense could mean any of these 4 things. And so what they want is, what is it based on, or what is the correct answer based on the passage? In this case, the answer is B, concentrated. And here's why. The question asks students to determine word meaning within a social science context. While students may frequently use the word intense to describe personalities or emotions, the context of this sentence requires students to recognize that intense can also mean concentrated. Choice B is the best answer because the context makes clear that the clustering of jobs, innovation, and productivity will be more concentrated in or more densely packed into a smaller number of bigger cities and city regions. In these ways, the question draws students back to the text rather than rewarding only isolated vocabulary knowledge. So again, you want to answer this question based on the passage. For the writing and language test, there will be 4 passages and 44 passage-based questions. And in this case, you have 35 minutes. So here's my time limit tip. For this portion, you will need to answer questions quickly, less than 1 minute. All questions are worth the same number of points, so if you get stuck, make your best guess and move on. So quick facts. All questions are multiple choice and based on passages. Some passages are paired with informational graphics, such as graphs and tables. Once again, you do not need math for this section, and topic-specific prior knowledge is never tested. And this is also part of the evidence-based reading and writing section. So what can we expect? The writing and language test puts students in the active role of an editor who is improving a written passage. Most questions ask students to decide which, if any of the alternatives to an underlined portion of a passage most improves it. So again, think of yourself as an editor here. Here's an example. The passage says, as Kingsman developed as a painter, his works were often compared to paintings by Chinese landscape artists dating back to CE 960, a time when a strong tradition of landscape painting emerged in Chinese art. Kingman, however, vacated, and notice we have the number 5 next to vacated and it's underlined, from that tradition in a number of ways, most notably in that he chose to focus not on natural landscapes such as mountains or rivers, but on cities. So if you look at question number 5, you'll notice again, we're looking for either no change, replacing vacated with evacuated, replacing it with the word departed, or replacing it with retired. So thinking as an editor, what answer is going to best make this passage effective? The answer here is C, departed. And here's why. This question asks students to determine which word makes the most sense in the context of a sentence. Departed is the most contextually appropriate way to indicate that Kingman had deviated from the tradition of Chinese landscape painting in a number of ways. In this sort of question, students must demonstrate not only facility with language in general, but also skill in using language in particular context to convey meaning clearly and precisely. So once again, reading the context is really important. So there are lots of resources to help you. Khan Academy has free personalized resources that you can use at any time, and there's a link provided here. You can also just Google PSAT resources or PSAT practice tests, and you will likely come across Khan Academy's website. You can also take a PSAT practice test in the student guide, which is either available from your counselor or you can go onto the College Board's website and just Google practice test and you can find that as well. You can also read the full PSAT student guide for details about the test and the National Merit Scholarship Program. And you can, once again, easily find these by Googling them or using the web link listed on this slide. So I wish you the best of luck on exam day, but please remember that you are more than your score. Colleges and other tests only measure so much of who you are, and you are so much more than whatever you achieve on test day. But I wish you the best of luck, and as I tell my AP Lang students, bon chance.